World Development and Relief is the way that the Methodist Church in Ireland has decided that together we can tackle poverty and injustice. And hopefully, whether I join you at home or in your church, you'll have the annual report, and it has a whole multitude of great stories of positive change. Stories of human rights to clean water, from Nepal to Lebanon. And a huge thank you if you're one of the supporters who's made those stories happen. Nandini is a young woman who once lived in bonded labour in India. Bonded labour is a form of modern-day slavery, and this made her essentially the property of a rich landowner. She had to work long, tiring hours with little reward and no hope of ever receiving her freedom. However, through the work of World Development Partner, International Justice Mission and a local Indian organisation, hundreds of women like Nandini and their families are being rescued and are discovering a new life. Now, if I asked you why we as Irish Methodists have World Development and Relief, I wonder what you would say. The answer might seem glaringly obvious. Well, we do it to help people who are less fortunate, to set them free from curses like hunger, thirst, illness and discrimination. But that's not really the whole picture. God is, of course, interested in freeing people from these bad things. But he is perhaps even more interested in freeing people to be and to do new, better things. When a person is freed from something, there's always a looking back to what was and what they were. But world development is about freeing people so they may look forward and ask, what can I now become? What can I now do? James Finley, the Christian writer, has said, our deepest freedom rests not in our freedom to do what we want to do, but rather in our freedom to become who God wills us to be. When you support World Development and Relief, you are freeing people to be more as God intended them to be. Indeed, the World Development vision is that everyone will fulfil their God-given potential. And that's an amazing opportunity and privilege for us all. During the COVID pandemic, Nandini, who you see on the right, had an urge to safeguard the widowed, destitute and those with disabilities in her community. Her husband, who was also a survivor of bonded labour, told her, "You are a tailor, Nandini. How about stitching masks for them?" And this she did. She was able to become something new, a provider, protector, role model. She could not have been these before. Now, in our first reading from John 10, Jesus talks about others who came before him and promised the crowds great things. But Jesus actually labels them thieves and robbers, for only he offers life in all its fullness, life in abundance. Now, some Bible scholars focus on this life in its fullness simply as a reference to our spiritual well-being. However, others are much broader in their interpretation, and life in all its fullness does include our spiritual relationship with God, of course, but also the physical, emotional, economic and social aspects of our lives. The life in all its fullness that God intended for us all is a life, yes, where we walk closely with him, but a life in all its fullness is also one where we are not hungry, where we have adequate shelter and water, where we feel safe with our families and receive justice when things do go wrong. So when you support World Development and Relief, you're not just freeing people from terrible circumstances. You're freeing them to be and do new things, which will be an absolute delight to them and to God. World Development's 13 partners are impacting 400,000 people in this way. Together, we are freeing people that they may know life in all its fullness. This is why World Development exists. Now, one of our wonderful World Development partners helping people to live life to the full is Pakamisa in South Africa. Pakamisa operates out of Pinetown Methodist Church, Pinetown is sort of to the left of Durban on the east coast. And they have three main areas of work. They work with older women who have been left with orphan children to bring up. They also invest heavily in preschool education. Indeed, every day 10,000 children are impacted by their preschool education programme, so that gives these kids a great start. And thirdly, Pakamisa also works with people affected by and infected with HIV and AIDS. And despite their daily trials, Pakamisa is a fun, vibrant and very loving community.
Pakamisa, a ministry of Pinetown Methodist Church, South Africa, focuses upon the empowerment of women and preschool education for children. Pakamisa is Zulu, meaning uplifting. It is often the women in South African society who sacrifice and work hard in order to keep family fed and clothed. They put in long hours. In the last few decades, more and more older women, or gogos, which means grannies in Zulu, have been left to raise young children as parents have succumbed to HIV and AIDS, travelling to find work or have had to abandon their families. Pakamisa offers support to these resilient ladies by training them in new skills such as how to grow vegetables for a healthier diet, how to cook on a tight budget, aerobics because a healthy body can mean a healthy mind, literacy and numeracy, and skills for income generation like jam making, beadwork and tailoring. In South African townships, many local women run simple businesses of preschool care, but few can provide actual preschool education. Pakamisa runs courses to train these self-employed women so that they can do more than childmind, but also provide a good educational foundation for the children before they enter their schools. Each day, 10,000 children are feeling the benefits of Pakamisa's training. Pakamisa runs 2 preschools itself in areas where there is no good quality preschool education. Nomalanga, who has worked with Pakamisa since 2007, runs one of these preschools.
I started to work here at Pakamisa 2007. I like to work with these children because some of them are poor. They stay with their grannies. They have nothing to eat. Some of them, when they come in the morning, they are hungry. I give them some rolls, bread. The Pakamisa support us about bread, peanut butter and jam and fruits. At Pakamisa, they give us training to know how to talk to the children, and the childminder and educate training. They give us those training to know how to teach the children, and when he's sick, how to handle that children.
Pakamisa also provides support for those affected by HIV and AIDS in the form of community, spiritual and mental well-being, providing a space for conversation. The stigma of infection can leave people feeling isolated, and Pakamisa provides family. It is nearly easier to say what Pakamisa does not do as opposed to what it does do. If you were to visit the main centre or to go out with staff on visits, you would experience a joy and busyness which is infectious. These women are truly the heart and the soul of their communities, and World Development and Relief is privileged to work alongside these amazing people.
World Development was absolutely heartbroken to hear of the passing of Thokozani Poswa, Director of Pakamisa. Thokozani passed away from COVID-19 during the pandemic. Thokozani was an absolute inspiration. She was someone who did know life in all its fullness with God. And as a single mum, she had raised 3 children very well and very successfully. And her passion and compassion drove her relentlessly to also make life better for her own community. We will miss our friend and our kindred spirit. The Methodist Church in Ireland very much believes in the value of each and every individual. And we can see this in how we do international development. World development often uses the word partner. And by partner, we tend to mean the people who work for the Indigenous organisations with whom we work. So at Pakamisa, that would be people like Setu, Stu, Zola. We also use the word partner to mean the organisation itself, so Pakamisa. However, World Development actually considers everyone who contributes to the positive change in materially poor communities as partners. So Indigenous staff and their local volunteers are partners, the beneficiaries themselves are partners as they contribute. Also any helpful local authorities, the World Development Committee, World Development volunteers who give their skills and their time and raise funds, and supporters who give and who pray. All of us together are partners, working and playing our own particular part for the common good. Now, some may assume that development work is done by the educated and the privileged to those who are materially poor, but this is completely wrong. In fact, it's probably the worst way to bring about long-lasting change. It's local people who are best at identifying the underlying problems and the solutions. And that's why World Development works with Indigenous organisations and why they consult and work closely with local communities. Local people may not contribute much in terms of money, but they do contribute local knowledge, skills, time and labour. And this local contribution can be seen very clearly in another of our partners, Open Schools Worldwide, again in South Africa.
On the continent of Africa, around 50 million children do not attend school. Education for all is a priority for the United Nations, because a lack of an education can prevent children from escaping poverty. Many of these children are vulnerable, some living on the streets without parents or protectors, coping with a disability or carrying around the scars of abuse. All of these consequences of poverty make attendance at school less likely. They may also not be able to afford the small school fees or the purchase of a uniform or books. Open Schools Worldwide has developed an innovative literacy, numeracy and life skills programme as a response to this problem. The Open Schools Worldwide programme teaches children up to grade level 3 within 6 months. The children are then supported in joining a local school where they are now more likely to remain as they have confidence and ability. Open Schools also provides after-school clubs to help their learning. Open Schools staff like Angie Pape, the Director for Africa, train local volunteers as teachers, and they deliver lessons in community centres, under trees and in homes. These classes are held wherever the children are. This is Moy Place, which means beautiful farm. Over 10,000 people live in this informal settlement beside a huge dump near Johannesburg. Many make their living by scavenging materials. This is typical of the sort of area where Open Schools brings change. Open Schools provides the educational outreach aspect of this Methodist programme. Jeanette has been living in the settlement and has had her own struggles. However, she saw what was happening, she volunteered, got trained as a teacher and now trains others in open school teaching.
I'm Jeanette Letele, teaching open school, 7 to 8. I've been teaching since 2011. I enjoy being with the children, helping them to write, to read. Yeah, Nokutula, she came here, she didn't know how to write and read. But now she can even write her name and then communicate in English. Just because she came from Zimbabwe, she only knew her own home language, but now she even knows how to speak English.
Currently, Open Schools operates in Zambia, Zimbabwe, South Africa, Kenya, Ethiopia and Malawi, teaching close to 4,500 children. Sometimes the unique circumstances of a problem require a new approach. Many of World Development and Relief's partners are innovative in their solutions. For Open Schools Worldwide, it was a case of, if the children can't come to school, we will take school to them.
So we play our part and they play theirs. And the annual report gives you more glimpses of local people changing their communities. Now, our second reading told how Jesus fed the 5,000, and sadly it's such a familiar story that we probably stopped exploring it and looking for lessons. All four Gospels have some version of this event. The miracle we generally focus upon is that of Jesus converting the loaves and fishes into a banquet for thousands. However, without the willingness of the few who shared the little they had, the miracle could not have taken place. Perhaps the minor miracle was the generosity of the few, giving up what they had and indeed what they saw as theirs, and sharing it with others so that everybody had enough. We can all hold on a little too tightly to our wealth and resources. As his disciples, Jesus asks us to release our blessings so that everyone can have enough, so that everyone can have life to the full. As I said before, I could tell you many stories of change. But sadly, I have a genuine fear that I will have fewer stories to tell you next year, because World Development and Relief income will have dropped due to the impact of the coronavirus pandemic. The 1% appeal during church's annual services is the biggest income we have. And of course, many churches have maybe not had their World Development Service, or they've had it online and people have been a bit unsure as to how to donate. And then they just forget to do so after the event. This potential huge drop in income comes at a time when our partners actually need us most. They need us more than ever. In the places where our partners work, people have not had the safety nets and resources that our government and society has been able to offer. A furloughing, exhaustive public health information, access to food, access to hygiene products. Partners have lost access to other funding due to the pandemic, and they've had to spend any reserves that they had, any financial reserves, on new needs because their communities have had these new needs because of COVID-19. Now, some individual supporters have already recognised this extra need this year, and they've done amazing fundraising efforts. Others have given significant donations to us, and we thank them sincerely. We each need to consider giving more as we are able. And that's why this year our offering envelope has a huge big red plus sign on it. I'm asking you to give more than usual. And here are the different ways we can do this. The absolute best way to support this work is to set up a standing order. If you give just £20 a month or €20 over the year, that will actually provide care packages for over 30 families. Families that have been rescued from slavery, like Nandini and her family. Standing orders also help World Development to plan ahead because we have more of an idea of income. Secondly, you may be someone who prefers to give a one-off donation each year. A cheque or cash in the 1% envelope, or perhaps you send it by a bank transfer direct. Then I would ask you to very seriously consider doubling that. Some of us have been hard hit by the pandemic, but some have actually saved money. No holiday, less eating out. Indeed, one of our supporters, regular supporters, contacted us to say that they were able to give more this year because they've added up how much money they've saved by not going out for coffees all the time. We each know our own circumstances. And whichever way you do it, standing order, a small amount in the envelope, claim the tax. Each of our governments, whether the Republic of Ireland or the UK, will give extra money at no cost to yourselves, and that would be a huge bonus. It's very simple. You fill in the form at the back of your envelope or in the report. So how do we actually do these things? What's the process? Well, if you have a report, there are forms at the back. If you have an envelope, you can obviously put your money in that and then put that through your own church. Do remember the big plus sign on that. You can go to the website and there's a donate button. You can make a direct bank transfer and the bank details are in the report. And if all else fails, you simply contact us, email us, and we'll sort you out. It really is fairly straightforward, and I would just hate people to feel inspired and then forget to do anything. So please follow up. God can use whatever we give. so that people can access more water, produce larger harvests, get a better education, receive medical treatment, understand their rights, access land, increase their income, find a meaningful place in society despite a disability or their gender, be free from slavery, and see justice done. All these things. But all this requires a little time and the small miracle of generosity on our part. We have the equivalent of loaves and fishes. And this year, we are asking you to give a little more. I pray that we, as Irish Methodist people, will rise to this challenge, that we will stand in solidarity with our friends who need us, that we will meet our obligations to our partners and even go a little further. We talk about our faith being vertical, between us and God. But it should also be horizontal, because we have a kinship with others around us. I pray that we will give more than usual to our Irish Methodist World Development and Relief Fund, because times are even harder for many, and because we are compassionate, just as Christ was. And in so doing, people will have the opportunity to be as God intended them to be, living a life to the full.